What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now, Back to the Past. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about Rocksteady's first game ever. You know, Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, at the time of this video's release, is now out for everybody. You don't have to do the deluxe edition. It's out, and with their newest chapter and the divisiveness, the online just back and forth, there's been so much conversation around this game. I thought, all right, well, number one, this actually is Batman Arkham Asylum's 15-year birthday. I'm actually going to do a video on that, a retrospective on this channel in August to celebrate it. But I thought, what makes the most sense to celebrate Suicide Squad? Well, it might be the Arkham games, but maybe not, depending on the person. But what about their first game, the game that started it all, a little game that came out back in 2006, and they went from this game to Batman Arkham Asylum. That's the jump. In 3 years, this game came out. Then 3 years later, 3 years and a couple months, and then Arkham Asylum came out. I can't actually believe that. If you show me this game, which, I have seen this game. Now, I actually played this game a little bit as well. Now, how I was recording it, let's say, was not the greatest. It didn't come out as well as I wanted, so I'm probably going to use some clips of, other people. When I do that, I'll be listing their channels and all that stuff in the description, giving credit where credit's due. This is a very interesting game, and a shooter, right? That's another interesting thing. So you could say, well, greatness from small beginnings. So you had Arkham Asylum, but considering Suicide Squad is also a shooter, this game is a shooter. Is Urban Chaos Riot Response actually a closer comparison to Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League than Arkham Asylum is? I don't know. This doesn't have superheroes in it, but it does have shooting, but it's first person, right? So like I said, it's a very interesting game. I did not play through the whole thing. I actually watched a pretty good amount of it after, I played my little segment of it. And I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's good. I've actually looked up, did other people talk about this? There's actually a few videos in the last year or so doing, retrospective things on it. And I think the general mindset is almost underappreciated gem. I would not go that far. I really wouldn't. One thing I think you have to do, and it was actually, I was watching or listening to some other people, you actually have to look at the year, right, that this game came out in. So it came out in 2006. Now, what's important about that is this was the Xbox 360 was actually already out. PS3 was about to be out, okay? So I think this game was around the springtime, and then PS3 was around November. And so PS3 wasn't out yet. But in 2006, you had Resistance, if you're thinking about PlayStation exclusive, and if you don't know me, huge Resistance guy. Freaking love that franchise. One of the first games I actually played on my PS3 when I got it in 2009 is I played Resistance 1. Love that franchise to death. It needs to come back. We'll do videos on Resistance one day on this channel as well. But also Gears of War actually debuted this year as well on Xbox. So, why I say this is a very middling game. I think the most interesting thing about this game is the contrast, I guess, between what it is and then what Arkham Asylum is. Because as time has gone on, as the years have gone on, is there anything really special about this game? No, it's more about the story of Rocksteady's beginning. That's at least my takeaway. Now, it is a different kind of game. I actually very much respect the news stuff, the news reporting that kind of opens up the chapters, and the big opening is a news reporter. I like that. I actually think that's pretty cool, and a lot of live action footage, a lot of SWAT team going up on explosions and stuff. It's pretty. Like I keep saying, interesting is probably the best word to describe this game. It is an interesting game. Now, it's very much like this. Okay. And this is a weird thing, politically, but it's very this huge anti-terrorist, pro-America kind of thing. And I'm not going to get it. Politics is the last thing, I want to get into specifically on this channel or any of my channels. But you can feel that. 2006, obviously far after 9/11, but you can definitely feel that kind of pro-America and then anti-terrorist, which, terrorists in and of themselves, you think of that word. So I get it. It's a product of the time. It's also, it starts at least with your character and that team, right, not being all that well liked. That hence the news, right? So as the game goes on, you're kind of winning over public perception because you're going from point A to point B, different areas, saving people, arresting, eliminating, let's say, to not use too many bad words on YouTube, right? That's the point. So as the game goes, this team that in the beginning of the game was very controversial, had never actually seen, I think, field time, right? That was the whole idea, is they never really had been out there on the field. As the game goes, you kind of win over the public's view of you. The game itself, well, it's a shooter. It's a shooter. I will say this, very tight controls. I actually did not look. I'll give credit to the game, or like anti-credit to me. I did not look if I could lower the sensitivity, but holy God, the sensitivity is really extreme. I actually like games that are more, like it's harder to move, right? So you pull the analog stick and the camera only moves slightly. I actually prefer that versus like loosey-goosey, like moving the analog stick just a smidge, like you sneeze and you hit your thumb and the camera like spins 360. That actually happened, I think, with Final Fantasy VII Remake. The camera's default is very loose for me, so I kind of tightened it. This game, it's too tight, way too tight. It feels very heavy to move the gun from point blank, like right in front of you. If you want to move it slightly to your right, well, you better drag that analog stick like you've never dragged anything in your life, because it's going to take a lot. But there are some pretty cool features. The game doesn't look bad or anything. You got to think, okay, 2006, I was playing the PS2 version of it, so you got to put yourself back in the times. But then again, you got to compare it. Well, I actually just played Gears of War for the first time, the first Gears of War on this channel. Now, I did the remastered version, not the original, so some things could have been skewed. I remember Resistance, but I haven't played Resistance actually, oh God, probably like 7 to 10 years ago is the last time I did it. So I don't know. I feel like it probably looks fine for the time period that we're looking at. The gameplay, like I said, a little stiff, but the weapons are pretty cool. I actually really like the Riot Shield, and I really like the I guess bullet sponge kind of thing. Well, it's a Riot Shield, so it would do what you would imagine. But like the bullet holes, hitting it, I think almost attention to detail in that way, pretty cool. The objectives, like the mini objectives, nailing headshots. I know one of the first optional objectives that you actually have in the game, I failed. I wasn't, I guess, paying too much attention. There's a, criminal with a shotgun shooting at you, and they must have told me that they would prefer that I arrest him. So you use the taser, which is also really like special effects, the actual effect of it. Really cool. Actually tasing somebody and having them be shocked. Really nice. I didn't hear that part, so I went up and I blasted him with my shotgun. So he was eliminated, and everybody got very mad at me. They said, hey, we told you we want him alive. I said, sorry, I didn't hear you. So that was one of the first, objectives that happened in this game. But it's a very, I would say, by the numbers, go here, eliminate some, enemies, save some people, pick up this or do this thing, right? Now, you get different, I would say, like factions of people. So you can get medics, you can get firefighters, and you can kind of order them around slightly. This isn't a massive game where you're telling them like minute details of what to do. You tell them to break the door, things like that. Overall, solid. Like I didn't have a problem with what I played, but again, I think if you compare it to more legendary games in the same year, if you compare it to what it became, that's where like the issues start to come. I will say this. I noticed this immediately. And now, again, I didn't play through the entire game, so I wonder if there's almost more examples of this. There's several instances, even in the first, little while, where the camera will do very similar things to, like, Zaz in Arkham Asylum, where I really don't know how to describe. I'm sure I'll probably show it, and that'll probably be a better like descriptor of versus what I'm about to say. But just the way like the camera pulls away from you and shows you kind of a scene happening, and the camera kind of follows. It reminded me very, very much of almost like setup scenes in Arkham Asylum, where you'd play as Batman, but it would move the camera and say, like, okay, Zaz is doing this, and you got to get around him. Like the very first time you meet that, right? And you have to not be seen by him and go behind him. Very much the beginning of this game reminded me, actually, at the beginning of that game. So I will say, like, I actually, from that perspective, I see one parallel, at least one. This game's also really violent. I was messing around towards, again, the beginning, and there's a scene, that exact scene, the camera scene. There's a scene where, a thug it has a police officer, and if you get too close or you just kind of mess up enough, he'll blow the head, and it shows like the head gone, and it's like, holy God, like, and that was the first time I had seen that. Obviously there was violence up until that point, but that graphic of seeing that was like, holy dear Jesus. So, starting from there, and then deciding to pick. And I don't know like the behind the scenes story. I'll have to look it up. I think that actually makes more sense to do for the Arkham Asylum kind of retrospective versus this. But I'm interested to see like how that carryover, I guess, happened. You go from this, and then you have to immediately, I imagine, start working in Arkham Asylum. I remember going into Asylum, like the news and the reporting on that game, people were never fully sure on it, even like as it got very close, because there was just a plague. You know, like superhero games were just, they were middling at best. And it was like that for I mean, yes, there were games here and there. And we actually got some more underappreciated, like hidden gems. But generally, games with that kind of mainstream appeal didn't land all that much. And then when the game came out and it was getting, you know, 9s, I think IGN gave it like either an 8.9 or 9.1. It gave a pretty high score. I remember seeing that and thinking, oh my God, this is a legit game. So I wonder from behind the scenes, Rocksteady doing this and then jumping 3 years later, but literally developing, going from a first-person shooter. It's a grittier Batman, so I guess that makes sense. And again, kind of the darker, like kind of like more yucky. I don't even know like the words to describe it. Just the dark kind of tones and the lighting, and just like actually the prisons early on in this game maybe reminds me of some of like the more just like disgusting, like kind of run down areas of Arkham Asylum. So I don't know, theme-wise and like that kind of darkness approach, that they kind of kept it the same. Violence they had to tone down, but you had to do that for Arkham Asylum. But yeah, overall, I definitely wanted to give this a go. Wanted to see what it was all about, and again, I was left with thinking this is absolutely a video game. It's a video game that exists. The combat, like hitting enemies with bullets, feels good. It has like that oomph, but aiming to me is a problem. Maybe I should have checked the settings to see if there was literally anything I could do. That's on me, but I do just want to throw it out there. That was immediately a turnoff. But beyond that, pretty solid overall game. And again, greatness from small beginnings. They really started in an odd place, and here we are with another game that is also controversial. Well, maybe, I don't even know if this game was controversial, but this game, very much divisive. We'll have to look at like their Metacritic scores and stuff. I'm sure Suicide Squad will probably be closer to this game than the Arkham games, but we'll see. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, if you've played this game or not. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.